I am Carrie Morrow, and this is my podcast, What the Heck Next? Today, we're going to talk about the definition of Hollywood because it keeps coming up. I really want to clear up any misconceptions about what people define Hollywood as, because it's more than just a location, at least to me. I've been through it all, especially since life has a way of changing my plans, the ones I never planned to change. This is What the Heck Next? Let's get into it. Welcome back to another solo episode with just me, your host, Carrie Morrow of What the Heck Next? Hollywood. I have run into this very interesting dilemma this week with people saying to me, "Oh, nobody cares that Hollywood's falling apart. What's the big deal? Nobody cares about Hollywood. Who cares about it?" Here's the answer: I care about it. Hollywood has multi faces because to the world, when you say the word Hollywood, they assume it's anything you watch on the television, anything we produced, anything we developed, anything that goes up for an award show, or you can go to the movie theater and see, or you can stream on your TV. Hollywood has different meanings because take me for an example. I did not go anywhere to be a filmmaker. I didn't study it. I wasn't fascinated with it. I wasn't a big TV watcher, film goer, any of those things. I have kind of a short attention span. Maybe that's it. But I mean, if I saw a show, I'd watch it and I'd get into it. And nowadays, when you stream something, I'd watch it and then I'd be done in a week. That's the end of it. The problem for me was that it'd be another year before the next season came on. And I truly couldn't remember what the last season was so that I'd have to watch the first season to watch the second season. That's just how my head works. And when I've got different shows running through my head that start 8, 10 episodes, things used to be all year. I remember when I was a kid, something would premiere in mid-September and it would go all the way till almost school was done in late May. But that's not the case anymore. Hollywood is now making things way shorter. 6 episodes, 5, 8. That's just unheard of in yesteryear. To those of us who work in those shows, I started making few episodes in around 2019. I made a show that was only 10 episodes, and that's all it was. And they went on the following year and did 10 other episodes. Somebody said to me, "Who cares about Hollywood? Who cares that it's falling apart?" Well, there's two facets to it. There are people that are creatives and they have spent their whole life developing and raising money or really, really rising up in their career to have a really solid path to creating and dreaming aloud with their visions to let the public see them and share their stories and their tales creatively. They can't live without that. Remember hearing those stories about like Steven Spielberg, how he picked up a camera when he was so young and that was his dream. He lived for that. Well, there are still those people nowadays, but I can't really comment on those people because I wasn't one of them. I was a stand up comedian in the 80s. That's what I really wanted to do. But I happened to have a degree in finance from a university. And I thought, well, I need a paycheck. I had just come out of college. It was not paying a lot of money. I will tell you, I was doing stand up comedy at night and working at Greenblatt's Deli. Then this job came along at a production company where I knew some people in the finance department, and there were no computers. None. Everything was done on paper with staples and files and books, these giant ledger books. Each movie had a ledger book, and we would fill them out and compile the numbers, and all the reports were handwritten in pencil. pencil had a stack of pencils, sharpened on my desk with an adding machine, the tape all over the floor. And that was how we reported on movies. But I wasn't interested in the movies. I didn't really get deeply invested in what these movies were. And then sometimes people would say, "What are you doing?" And I'd say, "Oh, I worked for that company that made this movie." And they'd be like, "Oh my God, it's my favorite movie." Okay. I probably never saw it. But as time went on and that company started to grow attached to me and respected me and appreciated me, I was sent out on a job to do a movie in Tucson, Arizona that was in a lot of trouble. I think I've talked about this before. There I was, sent on a plane from Burbank Airport to Tucson one day. They were sending me to get this report that they couldn't get this girl. And remember, no fax machines, no FedEx, no overnight mail, and they needed this report. So off I went with a paper plane ticket to Tucson, Arizona. And I got there and I saw this girl had one of those marble composition books where she had literally had drawn lines to, she gave somebody this much, but that somebody gave somebody this much. And it was like a giant spider web of where their money had gone to. They had forwarded her about $500,000 years ago. They would wire the money to a local bank in whatever town the movie was being made in. This movie was called Ghost Town. It was being made in a place called Old Tucson in Tucson, Arizona, which is like a old Western town. And quite a few movies have been made there. This movie was being made there. This girl, I don't know if she had never done the job or that it was hard to find somebody to do her finance job. But I'm telling you, I had like dominoes on the floor. She gave this person this much and this one, and he gave it back to him. And who stop? It was crazy. I went off to do that movie. After that movie, they wanted me to come back inside to the company, except they had paid me probably 5 times more than I was making while I had been in Tucson. And they said to me, "Oh, you got to come back and go back to your salary." No, no, no. I never saw so much money in my life. I thought I was the richest person I ever knew. I got out of there. I had so much money in the bank. That company was going under because my paycheck bounced 2 weeks in a row. And my mother said, get get another job. I did. I went off to do another job. At that time, they were willing to pay me more than the other people were paying. That was my life. Just started from there. That was long before I was producing, way long before I was producing. But I'll just give you an idea. When I was working in house, when I first went in house, I was making $250 a week. I think I was kind of part time and doing stand up at night. When my boss got fired, my new one came in, then they started to pay me $550 a week, which we're talking in the 80s, like wasn't terrible, especially if you were making it, it was a couple $1,000s a month. Okay, well, that was good. Then I started to work on other productions that started to pay me more. Like that production paid me in Tucson, which I'll never forget because I went down there and I said to them, "You can't possibly imagine what this girl's done with all this money, and I can show you, but I can't figure it all out." They said, "Well, we got good news and bad news. And I don't know what you're going to think, but the good news is we're going to give you the job." I said, I don't really want that job. I was really happy being a comedian." They said, "Well, then the bad news is we're firing her and you're going to get the job." And they said, "We're going to pay you $1,200 a week." Now, remember, I was making $550 a week. I said, "Well, wait a second. I don't even want this job. $550 a week in comedy. I'm good." And they said, "You don't want $1,250 a week?" I said, "Well, here's my problem." And you have to remember, I didn't know that this job was going to lead to my future. I had a problem is that the girl they were firing was getting $1,850 a week to screw the whole thing up. Hello. So I said to them, I don't want the job. The owner of the company came and met me at the airport when I flew back from Tucson. He said, name your price. I remember I said to him, I want $2,250 a week. It was a 6-day week job. I need to clean up those books. I need my assistant to come down from LA and I'll take the job. So here I was in my early 20s and somebody wants to pay me in the 80s, $2,250 a week. Hello. Sounded fabulous to me. Then when I left that production to go make another production, which was Bull Durham with Kevin Costner, I was working in the post-production finance department, except they were doing a ton of reshoots. So I was actually working on the production of the reshoots. They wanted to pay me even more than that, like 2,500 a week. I was like, okay, this is so lovely to me. It was about money to me. That's the Hollywood I knew. The Hollywood that was going to keep paying me. I called it Name That Tune because every time I turned around, I'd say, I want more money. They would go, okay. I never had pushback. When I started to work on features and being called a producer, now it's the beginning of the 90s, I'm being called producer. One of the movies I was on said, and you're going to join the Directors Guild of America. Well, the Directors Guild of America has minimums. So weekly minimums or daily if you're hired by the day. But as a unit production manager producer, wow, you're getting thousands of dollars a week. I was a kid making that kind of money, a kid under 25. It just kept getting bigger and better. That is the Hollywood that I know. So as I grew and kept getting more money and more money and more money, I bought a house when I was really, really young, alone, wasn't married. I started to realize the power of Hollywood. And It it had really not much anything for me to do with awards and getting my material out there and pitching my story. Early on, my brother actually said to me, the job of line producer or production manager is brutal. And you're not going to be able to spend your career doing that because it will eat you alive. And, you know, he wasn't wrong. And, it's a brutal job because when you're in charge of other people's money, the tension is, I'm telling you. And I used to refer to myself as the babysitter. What do you want me to feed the baby? It's not my money. And they would say, we need more money, but it's not my money. Studio gave us this money. This is the budget. We've all agreed to it. By the way, you signed the budget. We used to all have to sign the cover sheet of the budget agreeing that we agreed to that number. That's in full breakdown, what each department got, what each person got, what the music cost and the post-production cost, the editing and the titles and everything else. We signed off on that. That was my job. And I really loved what I did. So in reflection, when somebody says to me, and quite a few people have said it lately on some of my daily posts, oh, who gives a crap about Hollywood? Nobody cares about it. Go find another job. It doesn't really work like that. I cared about Hollywood and the thousands of people that I hired cared about Hollywood. There would be sometimes this little bit of conflict between a director and maybe the production or myself. They would say, this is a labor of love. Okay, it's not a labor of love. It's a business. I promise you, my dolly grip, who is supporting his first wife and 2 children, and his second wife and 3 children, it is not a labor of love to him. It's a paycheck. It was a paycheck to many of us. It was a glorious paycheck because we could go to work in our shorts and t-shirts. We worked at night in the dark, under the stars in the snow. We would ride forerunners around the set. We would have jet skis when we worked in the water. It was like camp. It was grown-up camp. It was a life that I never could have ever described it to anyone, but it is the life that I asked for because I have mentioned I didn't want to work in an office building and wear pantyhose and have a 10-minute break at 10 and a 1 hour break at 1 and go back and do it every day, take the train, go home. Now that's the world my mother wanted for me, this lovely business woman job. I liked having fun. I liked hiring all my friends. I also got to travel all over the world, all over the country. I was in the Middle East. I was in Utah for a bunch of movies, in the Caribbean, in the Bahamas, in Mexico. I had a blast. It was my life that paid me. My lifestyle paid me, which is very different than most other people's careers. Okay. Their career pays for their lifestyle. My lifestyle was my career. I had fun and friends and food and stories that the stories just go on, and it didn't have anything to do with the celebrities or the prestige. I will say I really loved the bigger I got. It was nice to work with these big celebrities. I was treated very well by all of them. It was a great experience. Once the movie was done and I had my jacket, because every movie you get like a jacket with the name of the movie on it, my paychecks and my benefits for the year ahead, because in Hollywood, what we make pays for our benefits in advance. So what we make now pays for our benefits for the year ahead, sometimes the year and a half ahead. And it it all funded itself. My whole life was financed. My journey was financed by this Hollywood dream. I loved it. Now that it has shipwrecked or collapsed or evaporated or is on pause, for me it's invisible. I can't find it. I can't feel it. I can't see it. It's very confusing because it didn't just take my paycheck. It took my lifestyle, took my friendships, it took my paycheck, it took my benefits. It didn't take my red carpet and rubbing elbows. That wasn't what I was in it for. It paid for and created this incredible lifestyle. When I did a movie in 2008, I was offered a movie in Puerto Rico. I packed up the two kids, the nanny. Off we went to San Juan, and we lived in the most luxurious situation. And it was unexplainable. I was walking down the street going, I've won the lottery. I have won the lottery. As I walked to work in my sundress in the middle of San Juan, living on the ocean, where my son learned to walk. My daughter went to school there. I was going to be there for a long time, 18 months. It was my lifestyle. It wasn't just a job. It was my lifestyle. It was my friendships. It was everything I had. The loss of it now is a death beyond words. No matter what happens, even if it comes back, it was a death. To me and my friends who did this for a living, we were the conveyor belt workers. We pushed the sausage out. We made these movies and then we'd look at each other and go, what are we doing next? Oh, what are you doing? Okay. And everybody would look at me going, where are you taking us next? It was a dream. I don't know how to explain it to you, but it started to fade and fade and fade into the distance. I don't know where it went. And maybe it just died. To those of us who worked on the conveyor belt, the answer to who cares about Hollywood anyway, I did. We did. It was it was our life. It was our way of life. It was a life that we could never have dreamed of. We had the time of our lives, and it wasn't about just how much money we made. Somebody this week started this uh, comment on my post saying, "Oh, poor producer sitting there in her Tom Ford glasses." My Tom Ford glasses, my $800 Tom Ford glasses. They said, "Huh, they're these ones." And I hedged to a post to say, "I bought this on Amazon with two other pairs. It was a 3-pack on Amazon for $13." And The word producer is a very misguided term because it implies to the world who didn't work in Hollywood that I was rolling in it and I was paid millions and poor girl, oh, now you don't have a job. Wow. I think people can be really mean because that's a terrible way to talk to anybody and to look at anybody. I'm a mom, I'm an only parent, and I support two children on what I used to make. It stopped. Hollywood was everything to me. It was my lifestyle. And so people who want to get snarky or producer, big deal. It was a big deal because I never saw myself as this, oh, big old producer. And by the way, most of the people I worked with and for didn't really see themselves that way. Some of them did. Some of them were kind of asses about it. But in general, the laboring producers, the ones that did the work, not the ones that sat there in their director's chairs and because they own the script or the ones that did the work. I mean, we really, really loved what we did. It was a dream come true. And it's now a dream gone blue. I don't know what's going to happen next, but I see the writing on the wall or not on the wall. There were two Hollywoods. There was the bring your magic carpet and your stories. Let's make it. I was in charge of that. They would give me their dream and put it in my hands with the money they had and say, you got to make this for me. I'm turning it over to you to make this for me. I would collaborate with them on the creative issues to make sure we did it for the money that we had, and we would come up with solutions together. Or they would sometimes I worked for people who just said, Carrie, figure it out. Okay, I don't know. Just you figure it out. Okay, I did. Loved what I did. And yes, to those of you who said, who cares about Hollywood? I care because it took good care of me. I took good care of it. Now it's not happening. I am a realist. I am not a dreamer. I don't know what will happen, but it doesn't look good. And I would love to say, listen to some of my followers who go, well, just go get another job. Well, first of all, that wasn't just a job. Second of all, when you've done what I've done for 40 years, it's not like I can like reduce my resume and just go, well, I kind of worked in Hollywood. It doesn't work like that. Just put my name in, Google me, and boom, there I am with a picture. There I am and everything, red carpets and whatever I did, there I am. And I can run, but I can't hide. It's very hard to say, well, you don't understand. I'm not producing anymore. I consider it retired and I'd love to come work for your company. I wanted to finish up what I started. I was told you can't. I was shown you can't. And that's the part that's hard. I want what I had and I can't have it. It's how I took care of my family by myself. I wanted to finish it. I just wanted to finish what I started. I guess it's like people who get into a marriage and they're married. I know people that were married 35 years and all of a sudden one of them goes, we're getting divorced. The other one is like a deer in headlights going, wait, what? Where you going? We had this all, we were doing this all together. This was my marriage. This business was what I was married to and I loved it without any qualms. When it was hard, it would come to an end and I'd go do something else. But I don't have that choice now. When I mean something else, by the way, I mean just move on to another production. I can't figure out what to do with my skills somewhere else. I have to tell you, it's rather shocking to apply to conventional jobs like I've been applying and see what they don't pay. I, 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 I don't even know what to say. I don't understand that it's just shocking to me that people stand on their feet for 8 hours for minimum wage. I know that people do that. I don't know what to do with that information, to be honest with you. I have to really, really think about to adjust my life to fit into this forced retirement experience. Hope that it's coming back. Do something minimal. I don't know what to do. But I wanted to share with you Who cares about Hollywood? I care all the people that worked with me who have lost their jobs, lost their homes, lost their equipment, lost their union, lost everything, lost their benefits. They cared. They didn't care if they went to the premiere. They care that they got the paycheck, got the jacket, moving on. A lot of the people that worked on crews with me would end a project after 6 months with me and then literally the next day be off to another production. Well, I stayed on much longer than them, and we cared. We cared, and we don't know what to do anymore with our empty bucket. So there are more than people just trying to get their creative vision up on the silver screen. There were people who made those visions happen, and we're the ones that cared about Hollywood. I hope you understand my story, and I really appreciate you listening to me, my imperfect self and situation. I love sharing it with you. Please listen, like, follow, subscribe wherever you get your podcasts: LinkedIn, Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, Apple, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts. You're going to hear all about Hollywood, the best I can deliver. I really appreciate it. My name is Carrie Morrow. This is What the Heck Next? What the Heck Next, Hollywood? I'll just keep sharing as the news just keeps coming, as things just keep changing, believe it or not. The landscape is on the move.